is, somebody wrote, as an old hippie who protested against the Vietnam War, how can we activate that level of civic participation?
First of all, God bless you. I feel like people are pretty civically activated. And it happens in more atomistic ways now. One of the things that I've been very interested in seeing since Newtown, which is about 100 days ago now, is the way that action has happened everywhere, in a lot of small ways, frequently all over the country, in a non-coordinated way. People are coming up with their own ways to express this feeling they've got about how they want the country to change. And I think that might be more the model of the future. It doesn't necessarily do your cause the most good to get 1 million people to Washington at one time. I always felt like my take on that when I was a full-time activist was always, the people united make a bigger target. So it might be that broad-scale mobilization isn't the direction that we go now. It may be smaller scale, more decentralized stuff. But people are pretty activist. On national security stuff, the one thing that I would say about that as an area of activism specifically is that, people told me, yeah, you have this TV show and people like you, whatever, but nobody wants to hear about this topic. And the reason that politicians don't fight about and don't debate well about public policy, foreign policy, is because people don't care about it. And that's why it breaks my heart in a good way that you all are here. Because people really do care about this stuff. This book did 5 weeks as #1. Egotistically, I feel great because that's my success. But really, what I feel like that's important because it shows. I mean, there's an army guy on the cover. Nobody thinks this is about fart jokes. So I think people care a lot more than we get credit for on national security issues. And I will say, looking ahead in politics, I think that I chose to read that nukes piece on purpose because I actually think we're about to get into a round of politics sometime over the next year in which we are actually going to have big decisions to make about how many nuclear weapons we have. And they will say that people don't care, and people find that people care.
There are a lot of political questions in here. This next one, though, is more on the personal level. Somebody here says, it seems like you are working very hard. Your new show and book promotion, and we're glad of that. Thank you so much for coming to Atlanta. How do you make time with Susan? What do you do to try to keep time with her and relax?
Let me look at that question.
Is that for Henry?
I am very, very blessed. I have a great life. I do work very hard, and Susan actually reminded me not long ago when I was sort of saying like, oh, I don't know, will I be doing TV as long as they'll have me? What if it turns out they'll have me for a long time? Am I going to be able to sort of keep it up? She said, every job that you've had since I've known you, we've been together, it'll be like 14 years. Jobs in that time. She said, every job you have had since I have known you, you have worked yourself this hard. So don't blame it on TV, Maddow. It's just sort of the way that I work. So I guess I'm a long days kind of person, which does make me a little bit of a bummer just because I'm sleepy. But I'm sleepy all the time when I'm not working. But we have a great life. I go home to rural Western Massachusetts every weekend. I don't stay in the city all the time. And Susan's a really good cook, and I'm a really good dishwasher. And we have a big, enormous Labrador Retriever, the size of a pony. And we have a great life and great families who love us. And so, thank you for worrying about me.
There were a lot of questions about another job that people would like to see you maybe pursue. Would you ever consider running for political office?
guys. Which I actually think is the point, because the answer to the question is no. I'm never going to run for anything ever. But why did you all think it was such a good idea? I love you too, but here's the thing, I'm not going to run. But the reason... I think there is something here, because the reason that you think it would be good for me to run for office, I'm guessing, is because you agree with me. Which means that I have policy beliefs and values that you also have. So why don't you run? Georgia is, everybody thinks of Atlanta as blue dot country, but your dot is really freaking big. And Georgia is nationally viewed, I think, as, conservative state or whatever, but sort of in the same way that Virginia was viewed that way. And if you are a liberal like me, or a progressive, which is a liberal who can spell better. I think there is a future for liberal politicians and progressive politicians in your state. There's going to be organizing going on in your state. And if you are somebody who feels frustrated that your politics, particularly your statewide politics, are more conservative than you and your friends and your cohort feel is appropriate, then, when I do different events around the country, people often ask me, I believe in the kind of things that you believe in, and how can I get involved? And I almost never tell anybody get involved in electoral politics, but you guys are kind of a sweet spot right now. And I would say, in the two places in the country where I would say electoral politics could be very rewarding for you if you get into it, you're good at it, and you can help. Not necessarily running yourself, but being involved in campaigns to kind of get the kind of people who you like and the kinds of issues that you like voted for. That if you are in Texas, or if you are in Georgia, that's the place to go.
What role will the religious right, social conservative GOP base play in the new GOP following the RNC autopsy 2012 election?
Fascinating question, and going to be a fascinating thing to watch. Because, all the eggheads, right, and all the Beltway discussion is all about how, the Republican Party is really putting those divisive social issues behind them.
Garbage!
Really? Tell Arkansas. Tell North Dakota. Tell Marco Rubio, who's supposedly the rap-quoting, future-thinking, young Republican guy who everybody can relate to and who represents the future of the party and none of these old past issues. Marco Rubio is co-sponsoring radical anti-abortion legislation in the Senate this year, not just in his history. I mean, that's what they're all working on. Rand Paul, the civil libertarian in the Republican Party. He wants tiny government. He wants to ban abortion at conception and hormonal birth control. So the small government guy's going to ban birth control pills? The idea that the Republican Party is moving on from social conservatism is not borne out by the actions of the Republican Party. It's interesting to watch. It'll be very fascinating to watch this upcoming week in the news with the oral arguments over the two gay rights cases. Those cases, I mean, you had all the 120 whatever prominent Republicans sign on to the Ken Mellman letter saying that they think it should go the pro-gay rights side, and that's great. And I talked to people who were involved in that effort about what it took to do that, and what does this mean for the party? And they give you this sort of egghead line. Yeah, it took President Obama time to move, but the Republican Party is moving too, and the anti-gay position is position of the past, fine, but out of those 120, 150 prominent Republicans who signed their name to that letter to the Supreme Court, 2 were elected officials.
Yeah.
0 senators, 0 governors. 0 presidential prospects, unless you think that John Huntsman is a presidential prospect. So it is an interesting time. After when Rob Portman came out and said that he now supports gay marriage rights because his son has come out to him, and then he waited 2 years until after the baby getting picked as vice president thing was over. I mean, I'm happy he's where he is, so I wish him all the best. But in reaction to that, what happened when we asked other Republicans, and this is going to change the Republican Party's position on the issue? John Boehner said, I can never imagine changing my mind on this issue. Reince Priebus, the head of the came out and said marriage is between a man and a woman, right? I mean, it's the guys who are running things and the people who are actually in elected office give the lie to the egghead talking point. I think watching the Republican Party try and work out the gay rights issue in particular internally is going to be so fascinating to watch, because there is nobody who is a rising star in the party or who's taken all that seriously in the party who wants to be seen as the champion of the anti-gay side. I don't count Rick Santorum. In terms of being a rising star in the party. But nobody wants to be seen as that side of it, but that is the inertia in the party, and nobody wants to say yes to the pro-gay rights people. So it's going to be amazing to watch.